What is laziness? Before we try to overcome laziness, we must understand what laziness really is. Most people think laziness means doing nothing, avoiding work, or wasting time. But laziness is not that simple. Let us imagine a group of people sitting together. Everyone has dreams. Everyone wants success, peace, and a better life. But even after knowing what to do, many people do not act. They delay, they wait, they say, I will start tomorrow. This is where laziness quickly enters. Laziness is not always visible from the outside. A person might look busy, but inside the mind feels stuck. Another person might have time, energy, and opportunity, but still feels no desire to move forward. That feeling is laziness. Laziness is not about the body, it is about the mind. A lazy moment is when your mind knows the right action but chooses comfort instead. It chooses a safety instead of effort. It chooses now instead of long-term growth. Many people blame themselves for being lazy. They feel quietly. They feel weak. They think something is wrong with them. But laziness is not a personal failure. It is a human experience. Everyone feels lazy at some point in life. Students feel lazy before studying. Workers feel lazy before starting tasks. Creative people feel lazy before creating. Even disciplined people feel lazy sometimes. The difference is not who feels lazy. The difference is who understands laziness and who lets laziness control them. Laziness is often a signal. It signals fear, confusion, overload, lack of clarity, or emotional tiredness. When the mind feels unsafe or overwhelmed, it slows down action. This slowdown appears as laziness. If we only hate laziness, we miss the lesson behind it. But if we understand laziness, we can change our response to it. This topic is not about forcing yourself. It is not about shouting at your mind. It is not about becoming a streak overnight. This topic is about learning how laziness works, why it appears, and how small intelligent change can slowly reduce its power. By understanding laziness step by step, you will realize on important truth. You are not lazy by nature. You are only reacting to your current mental state. And when you learn how to guide your mind instead of fighting it, action becomes easier, lighter, and more natural. Now let us go deeper and understand where laziness actually comes from. Chapter 1. Why laziness begins. Why laziness begins. Laziness does not appear suddenly. It does not come in one day, and it does not stay forever by accident. Laziness begins quickly. Most people do not notice it at the beginning. They only notice it when it becomes strong. To understand Why laziness begins? We must first stop seeing it as a bad habit. Laziness is not born from weakness. It is born from the way the human mind tries to protect itself. Every human mind has one main goal: safety. When the mind feels safe, it moves forward. When the mind feels unsafe, it slows down. Laziness begins at the moment when the mind decides that stopping is safer than moving. The first root: mental overload. One of the biggest reasons laziness begins is mental overload. Mental overload happens when the mind has too many thoughts at the same time. These thoughts might include worries, expectations, responsibilities, and unfinished tasks. When the mind feels crowded, it cannot focus on unclear action. Imagine a room filled with noise. When there is too much noise, it becomes difficult to hear anything clearly. In the same way, then the mind is full of noise, action becomes difficult. At this stage, laziness is not avoidance, it is confusion. The mind says, there is too much to do. I do not know where to start. Everything feels heavy. So instead of closing on task, the mind chooses rest. This rest looks like laziness, but inside it is overload. This is why people often feel lazy even when they have important goals. The goals are not the problem. The pressure around those goals is the problem. The second root: fear hiding inside laziness. Fear is one of the most hidden reasons laziness begins. Fear does not always look like fear. Sometimes it looks like delay. Sometimes it looks like distraction. Sometimes it looks like comfort seeing. Fear can take many forms: fear of failure, fear of making mistakes, fear of being judged, fear of not being good enough, fear of wasting effort. When the mind senses fear, it looks for safety, and safety often feels like not doing anything. Doing nothing feels safe because nothing can go wrong. So the mind delays action. This delay slowly becomes a habit, and that habit is called laziness. The person might say, I am lazy, but the truth is, I am afraid to try. The third root: lack of emotional energy. Energy is not only physical, emotional energy is equally important. A person might sleep enough, eat well, and still feel lazy. This happens when emotional energy is low. Emotional energy is drained by continuous stress, unresolved problems, negative self-talk, constant pressure to perform, feeling unappeared. When emotional energy is low, the mind feels heavy, even simple tasks feel difficult. The body might be ready, but the heart feels tired. In this state, laziness begins as emotional protection. The mind slows down to avoid more emotional pain. The fourth root: no clear direction. Laziness often begins when there is no clear direction. When a person does not know why they are doing something, where their effort is leading. What the next step is? The mind loses interest. Without direction, effort feels meaningless. When effort feels meaningless, the mind stops cooperating. This is why people feel lazy in tasks they do not understand or care about. It is not laziness, it is lack of connection. The mind needs meaning to move. The fifth root, perfection pressure. Perfection pressure is a silent case of laziness. When a person believes that everything must be perfect, starting becomes difficult. The mind says, if I cannot do it perfectly, why start? What if I fail? What if it is not good enough? So the mind waits. It waits for the perfect mood, the perfect time, the perfect confidence. That time never comes. Waiting becomes delay. Delay becomes habit. Habit becomes laziness. In reality, perfection is not the goal. Progress is. The sixth root, comparison with others. Comparison weakness action. When a person constantly compares their progress with others, their confidence slowly disappears. They feel behind, they feel small, they feel discouraged. Discouragement creates emotional weight. Emotional weight reduces movement. The mind says, others are better. I am too late. There is no point. So the mind stops trying. Laziness begins as a response to hopelessness. The seventh root, easy comfort and distraction. Modern life offers instant comfort, entertainment, scrolling videos, and constant stimulation train the brain to choose easy pleasure over effort. When the brain gets used to easy rewards, effort feels painful. Then when it is time to work, the mind resists. Resistance feels like laziness. This is not a moral problem. It is a conditioning problem. The brain learns what it repeatedly experiences. The eighth root, bad daily rhythm. Laziness also begins from poor daily rhythm. Irregular sleep, regular eating, and lack of routine confuse the body and mind. When the body clock is confused, energy becomes unstable. Unstable energy creates unpredictable moods. In such a state, discipline becomes difficult. Laziness grows in disorder. A structure does not restrict freedom. A structure supports energy. The ninth root, unresolved failure. Past failure can silently create laziness. When a person tries something and fails deeply, the memory stays. The next time an opportunity appears, the mind remembers pain. To avoid pain, the mind avoids action. Avoidance slowly becomes laziness. This is not weakness, this is self-protection. The 10th root, negative self-identity. What you believe about yourself shapes your action. If a person believes, I am lazy, I am never finish things, I am not disciplined, the mind behaves according to that belief. Identity creates behavior. Laziness begins when a person accepts laziness as part of who they are instead of seeing it as a temporary state. Why laziness feels stronger over time. Laziness grows when it is misunderstood. When a person blames themselves, they add guilt. Guilt reduces energy. Reduce energy increases laziness. This cycle repeats. The more a person hates their laziness, the stronger it becomes. Understanding breaks the cycle. Laziness is a signal, not a sentence. Laziness is not a life sentence. It is a signal. It signals mental overload, emotional fatigue, fear, lack of clarity, poor habits. Signals are meant to be understood, not punished. When you listen to the signal, you regain control. The most important realization. Laziness does not begin because you are weak. It begins because your mind is trying to protect you in the wrong way. Once you understand this, your relationship with laziness changes. You stop fidgeting it blindly. You start guiding it intelligently. And this understanding becomes the foundation for real change. Chapter 2. How laziness turns into your habit. Laziness does not become a habit in one day. It grows slowly, quickly, and patiently. Most people do not realize when this change happiness. They only realize later, when laziness feels normal and action feels difficult. To understand how laziness becomes a habit, we must first understand how habits are formed. A habit is not something you choose consciously. You choose consciously. Every time, a habit something your mind learns through repetition. When the mind repeats the same response again and again, it accepts that response as normal. Laziness becomes dangerous not because it excites, but because it repeats. The first step, delay becomes comfortable. Laziness usually begins as delay. At first, delay feels harmless. I will do it later. I am tired today. Tomorrow will be better. The mind experiences relief when it delays action. That relief feels good. The brain remembers this feeling. Every time you delay and feel relief, your brain learns one lesson. Avoiding action reduces discomfort. This is how laziness starts building its foundation. The problem is not delay itself. The problem is that delay feels comfortable, and comfort trains the brain faster than logic. Relief trains the brain. The human brain is designed to remember what reduces pain and increases comfort. When you avoid a task, pressure reduces, fear pauses, stress lowers for a moment. This temporary relief becomes a reward. The brain connects two things: avoidance equal relief. Once this connection is formed, the brain starts choosing avoidance automatically. This automatic choose is the beginning of habit formation. Laziness is not chosen, it is learned. Change how you see yourself. Stop saying I am lazy. Start saying I am learning to act. Identity shapes behavior. When identity changes, habit follows. Laziness is not your enemy. It was only a signal you did not understand before. Now you understand it. Now you see how it began. Now you can know how it become a habit. And most importantly, now you know that laziness does not disappear by force. It disappears when action becomes familiar again. One small action today can quickly change everything tomorrow. And that change always begins not with pressure but with one simple step forward.